Sorry, yes. Okay, good evening, councillors, and welcome to this virtual meeting of the Policy and Resources Committee of Bingham Town Council on Tuesday, the 9th of February 2021. So without further ado, may I go straight to the first item on the agenda to receive apologies for absence and acceptance.
All councillors are present.
Okay, no apologies, thank you. Item 2, to receive any declarations of interest. Don't think there are. And of course, if it does come to your mind throughout the meeting, then of course, you're very welcome to mention it later on. Item 3, to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of December 2020, Appendix A. I'm happy to move those minutes.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Second it. Okay. We're all happy with that?
Yeah.
No objections? Thank you. Item 4, to receive an update on outstanding decisions and consider further actions. Starting off with A, old courthouse matters. Perhaps we could have an update on where we are with the council chamber loop system and recording. You will recall, councillors, that I think we have previously discussed and approved looking into assisting those who are hard of hearing to be able to hear what is said in the council chamber. Is there any update on that? Joe?
Thank you, Chair. We did receive a quote for a fixed loop system in the council chamber. That was last year, pre-COVID. We have asked for an updated quote, but we've only got the one so far. We're also asking them if there's a more flexible system of not having it fitted in the council chamber, so it could be movable. So we'll look into that. As for the recording system, there'll be an item coming up at full council in February regarding the cloud telephone system rather than the system we've got at the moment for council to consider. Part of that would potentially be a Wildix system that the council could put in the corner to audio record or potentially record the meetings and stream them if that was something that they chose to do. So I'll bring more information to full council on that, and if we get anything more on the loop system, I'll bring that before full council before the next PNR if that's suitable.
Yeah, any comments or questions? Councillor Bird.
Yeah, it's really a point of information that, as I understand it, the regulations regarding the ability to hold meetings on camera like this runs out on May the 6th. So the intention is, unless that is redone, that proper meetings will resume after May the 6th. So obviously this doesn't need to be done until that sort of date. I suspect that it will actually carry on as it is now, because I don't think May the 6th is enough to have covered enough people, but we'll find out. But that's the information as I know it at the moment.
Yeah, I think Councillor Maureen Stockwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, obviously I have this same problem as a borough councillor, and they've taken advantage to get a new sound system into the main room whilst there is no activity in that room. It's an ideal time to do it. So I hope the quote for it can be quickly done. It's not just myself. Councillor Best is hard of hearing too. And, it really does discriminate against us when we don't hear things, especially if, when it's members of the public who speak at these meetings, and you know, for these Zoom and Teams meetings, I have been set up with special speakers, and you know, that's helped me enormously. So I do hope that, you know, we can take this time when the office is vacated to move this along, please. It's a long time in the asking. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I don't see any. No. Thank you. Can I suggest then that we try and move this along? If we can get something for full council in 2 weeks, that would be great. But certainly we'll want to report back by the next P&R as a minimum. We need to move on this. Are there any other items that are outstanding following previous decisions that we know of that's not on the agenda this evening? No. Okay. All right, moving on. Item 5, to consider whether to set up a major projects committee. We love committees.
Sorry,
Who's suggesting this? Sharon Clark, Town Clerk.
Councillor Purdy-Huran, I asked, put this on just as a point of consideration for the committee as to the number of major projects that appear to be forming, whether we needed to be able to identify those projects, ring fence them and progress them, and to do it in a committee format so they were ring-fenced and treated accordingly as the council's strategic projects. And I just wanted this committee's views to gather ideas and feedback on that as to how we progress some of the major projects that have been put forward and included in the budget over a number of years as well.
Okay. Councillor Bird.
Yes. When you did your speech, Francis, at the budget setting, you did list a lot of things that needed to be done, and I'm totally in agreement. These are all positive things, and I think what Sharon has suggested is a very good idea, so that not only for ourselves is there clarity in what's going on, but also for the public, who obviously want to know about things like car parks, sports grounds, etc. So I think that's a very good idea.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Councillor John Stockwood.
Thank you very much. The place where I've heard mention of a committee of this nature was perhaps in discussing what was happening in and around Butfield and the car park and that sort of area. There is perhaps some overlap between discussions around the future of Butfield and the car park project, because they're adjacent, and the car park is accessed across the Butfield, the land that we leased at Butfield. As one of the existing decisions of the council is that, or the committee, is that we look at planting some new trees to replace anything that gets in the way in the car park. So I think there's an opportunity there to talk to Barrett's about the future landscaping of Parsons Hill. I know that's of interest to members of the community. And again, that's an adjacent piece of land to Butfield, and it would be directly related to the car park project. With regards to the land to the southeast of Jebbs Lane, and the Win Hill project. These are geographically separate from Butfield by, they're on different parts of town. But it might be the case that we're looking at one big, a new borrowing consideration with regards to the way forward for improving community facilities across Bingham. So it may be the case that there is a element of linkage between these large projects. However, it's also the case that there seems to be a number of subcommittees being created, or because they exist already, and or they're being created to look at these individual projects. So when we consider the full team, I mean, things like the emergency plan subcommittee are hopefully coming to an end as the draft of the emergency plan is completed for the council to consider. But things such as the car park subcommittee and there's a Butfield subcommittee now, and there's also a Win Hill subcommittee. I think we need to consider, if we're having another committee, a major projects committee, are we bringing an end to these smaller subcommittees so that we have one committee instead of each of these smaller entities, or is it another committee? So I think we need to be careful. I mean, how many extra committees are we going to have, and how they're all going to have meetings, and be clear, because it could be the case you get rid of the car park subcommittee and you just have a major projects committee that covers everything that was doing, and you also the Butfield and I don't know, and anything else that's coming on, or is it an additional committee that we're having as well as the arrangements for each subcommittee? So perhaps some consideration of the overall structure of the council would be helpful.
Town Clerk?
Absolutely, Councillor Stockwood. How this is set up does need to be given some consideration. Some of the thoughts of that I had been thinking about in terms of the working groups was to have the working groups under the major projects committee as per the car park subcommittee. So it's kind of a transferal of that, where effort can still continue in small groups and be reported back potentially to the major projects committee. But certainly I'd want to seek councillors' view as to how this would work, so that it worked for the good of the council and enabled the projects to move at speed, essentially.
Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, thank you. I do actually agree with to some extent with Councillor Stockwood. I mean, we don't want a proliferation of committees and subcommittees all over the place, to be honest with you. But on the other hand, we've just set aside, I think it was £20,000 or £25,000 from reserves for a project manager, and I wonder if it's now the time to pull this work together so that we've got a kind of an oversight of what's of the various projects that we've got ongoing. And I think it is a time, maybe Councillor Stockwood, to consider the structure of the council, but that gives a focal point for the new project manager we're seeking to employ to take an overarching position in where we are with the council. So I think I would be in favour of it on that basis.
Councillor Mrs Stockwood.
Thank you. I am perhaps a bit confused on this, but I understood that each project would have its project manager built into the cost of that particular item. So an overarching project manager is, to me, somewhat superfluous. You can have a member of staff looking at them, but there is other work to be done, and this committee has handled projects in the future and how they would move forward. And I do agree with Councillor Wallace that there is such a proliferation. I don't really think we need another one, is my own personal view. Thank you.
You're absolutely right, Councillor Mrs Stockwood. Each project, in my view, would have a clerk of works that will be engaged for that particular task. and a project support officer that we set aside money for was really just to basically liaise with each of the project leaders, as it were, and the clerk of those works. So there is a distinction. It's not the same role. Can I just, sorry, Councillor Shelton.
Yeah, the way we're doing it at the moment with the subcommittees and having it specific to that particular task in question does allow us to get a specialist in for that particular project that we're dealing with. Whereas if you've got an overall one, you don't necessarily know the specific requirements of each individual project. So by having somebody specific to that project, you can get a specialist in that area that we want at that particular time. It seems that would be more beneficial to this council, because we can't be experienced in everything.
Yeah. Just for my own views at the moment initially, and I'm not fixed in my views, but my feeling is that we have sufficient committees in existence now and working groups, and it seems to me perfectly reasonable for the Recreation and Amenities Committee to oversee Win Hill, and Community and Environment to oversee improving our environment with planting trees on Parsons Hill, perhaps, and perhaps for the Policy and Resources Committee to have overall charge of the car parking project. And of course, working groups working beneath those committees will be sufficiently flexible to meet as and when, and anything that needs to be picked up prior to full council can be picked up with Policy and Resources. So if there's something that Recreation and Amenities have missed, or Community Environment, it can be picked up at this committee, obviously for full council to approve later. So that's my initial views, that we don't need a specific overall committee on these items, but that can change, and I'm rather than make a decision or a recommendation at this meeting, may I suggest that we take this to full council on the 23rd for other councillors to give their opinions. Okay.
Yes, thank you, councillors.
Happy with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, and thanks for your points of view. Item 6, to receive an update on the car park project, to receive the minutes from the car park subcommittee held on the 9th of October, Appendix B, and B, to receive any correspondence, Appendix C. Are we happy? Did you wish to update us on anything, Councillor John Stockwood?
Well, clearly, since the meetings occurred, the site has been cleared again. It talks about the opportunity to work with a potential partner, and I understand that we've got an offer of a meeting that we can, that came in today, for us to have a meeting with somebody who can step us through every step of the project, while at the same time leaving us, I think, as the owner of the project at the end, so that any surplus income from a car park comes back to Bingham, for Bingham to people to decide what the money is spent on. Within the decision, there was the removal of the trees, which hasn't happened yet, but it needs to happen before the bird nesting season begins. And there's an opportunity to meet our neighbour Barrett's with regards to the landscaping of Parsons Hill. Whether or not we can perhaps put the replacement trees there, and that would help some of the community aspirations around biodiversity in North Bingham development. I think could be quite beneficial. We've also had some correspondence from via East Midlands around the Bridleway to the immediate west of the site. They're talking about it's clear that the leisure centre proposal connects to the Bridleway on the west side, and that they would like to see, understand how they can, are there any other connections coming from the car park proposal, because there is a general aspiration amongst all partners to see improved access to the railway station. So that's another piece of correspondence, perhaps not included in the agenda. So there was also, I don't know if it was mentioned, but the initial comments from Network Rail have been received about their view on the creation of a pedestrian route, and that's mentioned in the notes. And then you've got correspondence from Rushcliffe Borough, correspondence from Rushcliffe Borough Council expressing their interests. Well, I did think perhaps initially that this was because they were keen to help us with the project, but then as a borough councillor, we've become aware of the cabinet papers which are they're discussing right now, or have already finished their meeting by now, at the borough, where Rushcliffe is in fact leaving the county-wide parking enforcement arrangements and setting up on their own. And so maybe they're just interested actually in trying to find this out if there's a new car park for them to offer parking enforcement services. So, but I mean, there's an offer of a meeting there with the Borough Council. It's a good idea that we keep in touch with the Borough Council, and if they've actually got somebody from the County Council who's going to talk to them, to have a coordinated strategy for on and off street parking in Bingham moving forward. So there's, we'd take up that opportunity. There's an opportunity to discuss with Barrett's about replacement trees and landscaping on Parsons Hill, and there's an opportunity to meet with Via about the connections between the car park and the Bridleway. And there's the potential partner who's offering a meeting to discuss plans and a time scale of how they would go forward, what we would be asked for in terms of finance, and to set all that out as them supporting us all the way through the project to delivery. So there's a number of there's a number of opportunities for meetings there and progress on the way forward, with now that the access road is under construction, and we've had it's been a big risk to the project whether or not that road was going to go ahead. We did hear stories from the developer of the access road or rumours about them and the delays in their process, but they are now building on site. So we have a much greater level of confidence that access road to bring cars to the car park is actually going to be in place on schedule. Another thing that's come up, and this is about talking about having one strategic vision for the council. No matter what committee structure you have, we're all working towards one strategic vision. Is that the Butfield Sports Club have come forward in the last few weeks. They've got a revised suggestion for the way forward at Butfield, which in addition to new sports pitches, also has a reconfiguration of the training pitch adjacent to the pavilion, and they now seem to be accepting where the access is going to be connecting, but they would like to see a relocated parking arrangement for themselves and a new 3G pitch or artificial pitch constructed on the training pitch that they've got currently. And the discussions with the Butfield are ongoing, and I think we've got a potential meeting with them next week. So there is there's elements of the site there. There's a vision of being able to have pedestrian access all the way through to the station from Chapel Lane, providing step-free access on the north side, which is not something Network Rail's been able to bring forward through grants that they've been able to access. It would connect the train station, the leisure centre, the community hall, the new offices, and this car park together, and which would all be beneficial. And at the same time, there's opportunities to improve nearby biodiversity. But Field would also like us to progress the additional sports pitches that we've had some discussion about before, and we're waiting for a meeting to be arranged with the Crown Estate. So there's a lot of meetings there that need to happen as we talk to partners and potential partners, or just neighbours, or adjacent landowners, or interested parties as we move forward with the project. So there's some notes of the last meeting. The action is we need to get on with the trees before the bird nesting is finished, and we need to book in some of these meetings and talk to people. So that would be my summary. I think adding to that list I've talked about, the correspondence from RBC suggests that we should meet with them and hear what they've got to say. So there's plenty of opportunities for action to get along with the car park committee, and I'm I welcome it all, and because I think Bingham people want to see this project progress. So that would be my update, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And just to clarify your comments about the cabinet meeting this evening at Rushcliffe, there is a proposal that Rushcliffe, and perhaps others actually, come out of the current arrangements, which is a kind of a county-wide group, from June 2022, so a year in June, and the estimate is that Rushcliffe will save just over £40,000, and they will make their own arrangements, possibly in partnership with Broxtowe Borough Council, I think, if I recall the papers, some sort of arrangements for collection of parking fees. Okay, any questions or comments? Councillor Wallace.
Yes, please, thank you. I agree again with the Mayor that the people in Bingham want to make some progress around the car parking. I think there's two things, Mr. Mayor. I've read through Rushcliffe's letter, and no matter what happens with the car parking, it does seem eminently sensible that we coordinate how the car parks run, how they work, no matter who's under control of them. And the second thing is just a question about the partner. Can I assume that we'll be covering that at the confidential part of the meeting? Car parking is on the agenda at that time.
Yes.
Yes.
It was the case that, Mr. Chairman, if I may provide a point of explanation, that the site was cleared because after discussions with the partner, and unfortunately we've had another sudden lockdown appear, and there's a lot of people with it's affecting a lot of different the progress of a lot of different things at a lot of different places, and unfortunately we've not yet arranged that meeting with the partner. I was hoping to have it all done before this meeting happened, and we'd have the full report for councillors to consider, but it looks like we're still in the process of collecting the information to bring to council, so yeah, you can discuss it further and confidentially if you wish.
Meanwhile, can I just ask, it's my understanding, I don't know if I'm right, that the nesting season starts on the 1st of March, I think, and some people, not some people, it has been suggested that it would be wise to get rid of the trees, which I believe are of no special value. But what we don't want is anything to basically impede progress between March and September.
It's the point of information, Mr. Chairman. So the council, the committee decided, or the subcommittee made a recommendation, and that went to full council, and council has agreed that the trees are to come down, and we will make arrangements for alternatives. So that's a decision already happened. It's about ensuring that happens in a timely fashion and making sure that goes forward as an action.
So that can be done in the next 21 days then, can it?
I'll speak with Tom Pettit at Rushcliffe Borough Council, because I know he had an interest in the age of those trees, and we will speak with our tree surgeon as well to progress pricing for that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, any other councillor, Mrs. Moore in Stockwood?
Thank you. If it does get delayed for any reason, I think it's lime trees that are concerned, and you can quite easily see in lime trees if there are any nests, and you can still cut trees down during that season, you know, the nesting season, if there are no visible signs of nests. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, no other questions and comments then for now. We'll move on. Thank you, councillors. Item 7, to verify accounts paid report to the 31st of December 2020, Appendix D. Is there any questions or comments? We're all happy to accept those?
Nothing for me. Yeah, happy to accept them.
Yeah, okay. I'll take that as a yes then from everybody. Thank you. Item 8, to verify bank reconciliations A to the 30th of November 2020, Appendix E.
Again, they balance, which is good news. So I've got no comments.
It's always helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take it, and we're happy with those. And 8B to the 31st of December 2020, Appendix F.
Likewise.
Yep, I don't think there's any problems with that. Thank you. If there being no objections to it or comments, I'll move on to item 9, to receive the budget to actuals to the 31st of December 2020, Appendix G. No questions or comments? Thank you. We're flying along here. Item 10, to receive the year-end forecast to the 31st of March 2021, Appendix H. Any comments or questions? No. Take that as accepted. Okay, that's the financials done with, I think. Item 11, to request councillors to complete a GDPR security compliance checklist form, Appendix I. Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, these forms were first introduced in 2018. So it would be a good time for councillors that were with us at that time to obviously reaffirm and fill out the questions again on the form that you've all had, and obviously new councillors that are with us to complete those forms so that we're just confirming that all our data is secure as we send it out to councillors on their devices, etc. You've all hopefully seen the form, so if you've got any questions, but I'll be sending these out to all councillors to complete and return to us tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Is that 21 months late then?
There isn't a frequency as such, but yes, they're overdue to go out.
Okay, thank you. Right, okay. We'll look forward to those. Item 12, to consider.
Councillor Shelton, I think he's his hand up, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Shelton.
I presume that the mobile devices you're referring to are the ones that hold town council information, or are you referring to every item that somebody has?
Yes, Councillor Shelton, it's just any devices that you receive your town council information on. Your personal devices that you don't receive any town council information on are absolutely fine. You don't need to include those.
Two other points I would like to make. Cloud access, make sure that the cloud provider is UK based. A few years ago, Microsoft had a problem in the Irish Republic, which was a European one, and the American government tried to say you've got to hand over the data. The EU politely told them, keep your nose out. And anybody going to the States or a country like that, I believe they actually insist you hand over your password so that they can examine the device. So if there is council stuff on that on your phone, I would advise you not to take it to any of those type of countries.
Right. Thank you, and thanks for pointing that out, because I understand there's an issue between Australia and Google at the moment. So it kind of, I suppose, speculation in the press were sort of discussing how that might affect Australians in the future, but it also suggested that there could be issues in any country, including ours. So something to be aware of. Okay, so we'll move on to item 12, to consider grant aid requests, Appendix J.
Are we taking these in? Oh, apologies, Councillor Stotwood.
Chair.
Johnston. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So it seems to me that these are sports clubs requesting aid related to the pandemic. So I think some of the papers that we just looked at suggest that there isn't that much money in the actual grant aid budget, and that these people would perhaps looking at the resilience fund and how we've supported other sports or community or local community groups, I think. I can't quite remember. Perhaps some detail could be provided by others that we offered 50% of what people were asking for, or was it the whole amount in some cases? But we've given similar levels of support to the Bowls Club, the Butfield and Winhill, and I think my understanding of the grants this evening are it's two sports clubs, the South Notts Hockey Club and the Basketball Club, asking for requests of around just over £2,000 each. So to frame the debate, perhaps you could think about this as money from the Resilience Fund, similar to the payments that we've made to other sports and community organisations, to help them with their impact of COVID and to keep them operational. And there's some itemised requests here as to why they would need the money moving forward from both the hockey club and the basketball club, and think about it from that sum of money, because I think the actual grant fund of £5,000, we're so far along with it that it wouldn't be able to consider these significant sums from that money.
Do you want to know how much money remains in
Yes, please.
the grant aid? So if you recall, we've got a £5,000 budget for grant aid. We have £1,954 and 4p left. And in terms of the humanitarian aid, we have £12,820 26p left.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So looking to the future, you've got perhaps these elements from the resilience funds, and then there may be some work to do around additional events in the summer to bring the town centre back to life when we're all vaccinated, allegedly. So you know, by May the 6th, allegedly. So, you know, I would just frame the debate around there's this larger sum of money in the resilience funds, and that this is something similar to what we've done for other clubs, rather than grant aid from the £5,000 traditional fund. And I just frame the debate in that way. And whether or not we supported 50% of the requests that came from others, or we supported the whole amount, I can't quite remember. But
No,
I'll let others
50%. It's 50. Can I make a suggestion that we just give a steer to the Resilience Subcommittee, who will have an opportunity to meet before full council to consider these two items out of respect to members of the Resilience Subcommittee. I don't want to cut them out of their views, so we can perhaps meet within the next fortnight and make a recommendation to full council.
Yes, I'm still here, Francis, and I await your date, and
Okay.
I'll fit in with it if I possibly can.
Yeah. Okay. Are we happy with that, Councillor Wallace?
Yeah, I think we are, but just to confirm, Councillor Stockwood's recollection, that concurs with mine. I think the concern was that if we had agreed to the grants as they were made in full, we'd have pretty much burned through all of the money that was available to us at a rate of knots. So I think we have to be a bit realistic about what we can do to help. And I think Councillor Stockwood's view was precisely where we all came to across all sides of the council. So I'm happy that we carry on that basis, clearly leaving the final decision to the Resilience Committee. So yeah, happy with that.
Yeah. Okay. So it'll only be a short meeting, and it's not something really that we argue tooth and nail over. So we'll get that set up and make a recommendation to full council.
We never argue.
Yeah. Okay. Before we break out in hugs and cuddles, moving on to item 13, to receive any correspondence.
noted.
Appendix K. Oh, yes. Was that the thank you letter?
Yeah.
Yep. No,
Yes, it is
okay.
very nice to receive a thank you letter. Sometimes we never hear anything, but to get one is very special.
Yeah,
I do like
Actually,
when the council receives an acknowledgement for the grants that have been given to the community.
Well, I would just like it recorded, as you reminded me. As chairman of this committee, I also had a phone call from a leading member of the bowling club who profusely thanked us for our assistance. So I would just like to pass that on. Okay, so we've now reached item 14, confidential business, Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, to resolve that in view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, the press and the public be excluded for the remainder of the meeting. I move that. Do I have a seconder, please?
yeah.
Second.
Mrs. Stockwood. Okay, thank you. Anyone against? I don't see anybody. Thank you. That concludes the business of the open committee. We'll now move over onto the Teams link for confidential business. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.